Kia ora, we have here some more Middle-earth LEGO for you today. It was one of their best themes after all. This here is set 79002, the Attack of the Wargs, which released based on this final sequence here from The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. It released alongside the movie back in 2012. The set here contains 400 pieces in total, with 5 minifigures, all apparently being exclusive, but if you have seen my other Middle-earth based videos, you'll know how generous I think it is to label the Orcs as exclusive minifigures. This originally retailed for 50 USD or 90 NZD. Nowadays you're looking at least 250 NZD for this set in sealed condition, a little bit less in the second-hand market at about 170 NZD. And the set overview on this one here is a big tree, which I hadn't thought about until LEGO released this Jurassic Park set last year, which was also just a big tree. Unlike that one though, this one does contain quite a few different features that make it rather unique. More importantly, we get more dwarfs for our company and some new animal molds as well. Let's get into it. The first build to look at here is a side build of a rock-like structure. It acts as a really cool display for the Warg riders. It's rather large actually for a side build, so it does feel more worthwhile to be an inclusion here. Some smaller details like some bones for underneath there and some ammo for our launcher. I really like that hinge design of the part that Yazneg stands on, which is actually just clipped into this bracket here and sits atop this rock at the side. Really cool design overall. The rock can split apart at the base too, so you can have the launcher separate, which helps with the feature. You can use this to throw the dwarves up into the tree. It takes a couple of times, as usual with a gimmick like this, but when it works, it feels really great. You reattach that launcher to the rock now, and you can use that ammo down below to attack the company. Now as for the rest of the tree itself, it's pretty well built and sturdy, and the levels make it rather interesting to complete. The tree stands at 19 centimeters high, 19 centimeters wide, and 10 centimeters long. We've got some rather nice 2012 details here below with plant life and mushrooms. The base here is a bit more substantial than I thought it would be, and we have some extra details here like a hidden piece of treasure that's been left behind by someone underneath this tree. I always love the use of mixed leaves for colouring here, which adds some extra detail. The different shapes and sizes are found all throughout the build as well. The tree also has a good amount of standing room here for our figures, which will be something that we'll take a look at in further detail later at the end. Addressing something important here, but yes, I actually do have a lot of broken leaves here on my build. It's a result of earthquake damage that us Cantabrians went through over a decade ago now. Our second level of the tree here uses some flick fire missiles that are used to resemble fire magic. Blue and standard orange variety, you can press on the back of the tree here to send those missiles flying back at the orcs. Our final layer here is just a little bit of extra standing room for any figures to be resting. This is very useful if you have all the other dwarves from the line and you want to make a proper display of the third act. If we head back down below to the bottom of the tree, we can place these flame elements, which I think are used to resemble the tree burning in the film at the end, the orcs' final measure into really messing up the company. You've got 2 large flame elements here, perfect spot here at the back for this one, and the other one can just be placed here at the front. The best feature I saved for last here, and that's the customizing options laid out for us. These layers can actually all be rotated around, so if you don't like the form that the tree has now, you're free to change it however you see fit. I genuinely really like that for this kind of a design. It greatly helps with displaying your figures in your ideal position, and it just adds some unique design options for us as well. It really helps it stand out in the LEGO big tree genre of sets. That's it for our builds. It's time to take a look at our figures here. So first up we have here Thorin Oakenshield. He is one of the more important figures to get in this line since he is the leader of the dwarf company. Him being exclusive still really bugs me though. He was released in a couple of other sets and alternative variants. I love the details on this figure's torso, and that hairpiece is really amazing, especially when it's being used against a molded piece like a quiver. I'm also disappointed in him here though, because I feel like he really needed a cape or something to help resemble his coat from the movie. LEGO seemed to be very picky on which characters they gave capes to in the Middle-earth series. Thorin also lacks his Oakenshield, his namesake. In the LEGO Hobbit video game, they made sure to include that as a piece there, and I think that piece looks incredible. It's such a shame that we don't actually have that in person. A double-sided expression of a more angry look. It feels rather fitting for this character actually, which is cool to see. Removing that hairpiece now so you can see the torso details for the back here, just to show that he does have his coat there. It's just printed on. It doesn't nearly do that design justice. And this here is Bifur, who remained entirely exclusive in this set. This was something that I criticized even at the time. Only a handful of the dwarves were ever re-released in sets later on. If you missed the sets from An Unexpected Journey, you definitely missed out on at least half of the dwarven company, I think. Bifur is pretty cool for that specially molded hair and beard piece, which features an axe head shoved in that top corner. Nice dual molding there as well. If I remove that hairpiece there, we have an expression that definitely looks like it would be from a man with an axe in his head, followed by an angry expression that also looks like an accurate response to having an axe head stuck in your skull. This here is Yazneg, who was the most interesting inclusion for me at the time, and maybe still is. Yazneg here was kind of created for the movies. He is the second in command to Azog, the main antagonist of the trilogy, who was also kind of invented for the movies because he's only mentioned by name in the books. Yazneg is included here because of some late changes that were made to the film. He features a flesh tone, which is rather unusual for the Orcs here, and he has a really cool bone-like shoulder armored piece. So if you remove that part there, you can see that there is some torso detailing, which is okay, but the flesh tone doesn't actually match the rest of his head. Yazneg here was included with this amazing animal mold of a Warg, which were also seen in the Two Towers film as well as the Hobbit trilogy, so this was something really cool to see in sets now. Similar to the horses, but not exactly in the same way, the Wargs here featured some special articulation in that neck, which allowed for some cool head movements there, and the jaws on the beast can also move. Yazneg appears in the film, like I mentioned, as a second in command, but around halfway through the movie when he tells Azog that he and the gang failed to grab the dwarves, Azog kills him. He actually sends the Wargs to eat him, so him appearing in this set, which is based on the ending of the film, is actually an inaccuracy. It's actually Azog who rides this white Warg in the film, and he's the one that's featured in this very scene. Behind the scenes does show that Yazneg was originally intended to be the leader of the Warg Riders, so his placement works here because during production it was supposed to be him in this part. Around halfway through production, the idea of Azog was created, and this LEGO set here was produced before that change. And for those who aren't aware either, the entire first wave was produced during the production of the films before it had been decided that the two movies would actually be split into three. This is why we ended up receiving sets for the Desolation of Smaug releasing in 2012 underneath the Unexpected Journey banner. LEGO used that opportunity to advertise on the box that these were now being labeled as sneak preview sets for the next film. And when you think about it, that's actually pretty crazy that it happened like this. Like, imagine getting that in-game compound battle set that released for the in-game line, but we got it during the Infinity War releases in 2018. These here are our Orc inclusions. 2 Orcs were included, labeled as Hunter Orcs, but not that far off from the Mortal Orcs that I have already covered on this channel. I don't personally see what the differences here are with these Orcs. They are truly labeled as exclusive characters though, and apparently this is the only set to feature these specific head prints. I assume the colours of the piercings or something might be slightly different from the Mortal Orcs. The first Orc here features the classic sword from the castle themes, removing that hairpiece and sword so we can see the back head printing, which just features some strands of hair. Our other Orc figure here is the exact same inclusion, but he features a bow and a quiver. The final inclusion here is the Warg again, but this time it's coloured in grey. Features the exact same details as the other one that we looked at earlier, but a recolor, and both of them being included in one set is really cool. The last thing I wanted to cover here then is what do I do with the rest of the group. Like I mentioned, the tree is actually big enough to be able to hold all of our figures from the Hobbit line to better recreate that final scene from the movie. I feel like this level of design was always kept in mind back in the day, whereas today we essentially just have to accept smaller models that can't necessarily fit all characters intended. The ones that bother me the most are when Star Wars ships like the Bad Batch shuttle include droids like the Gonk droid, but there's no room on the ship for all figures and droids. Here you can see I'm able to fit all of the company members on this tree, and that's also without moving the tree around and changing up those layers. There's still more room too if I wanted to do so. You could continue to swap the characters around and just make it more fitting for what you want on your display. I was really positive on this set before, but this genuinely just makes everything so much better. That's it for my look at the Hobbit Attack of the Warg set. Unfortunately, you needed this in order to finish your company, with these two members here being exclusive, but it does remain a good one to have. The Wargs were really great inclusions for those that are fans of The Lord of the Rings over The Hobbit. The tree itself might be one of my favourite playsets based on such a simple concept as well. I think that this set achieves that design a lot better than the likes of the static Jurassic Park one that released more than a decade later. Overall, it's a really solid inclusion to the line. If you enjoyed this look at an older LEGO Middle-earth set, liking this video and subscribing to this channel here helps to support more videos like this in the future. Ka kite everyone, I hope to see you next time.